What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the CRW podcast. Here for the Kansas Review and Reaction, episode 330 here of the show. Unfortunately, one we're going to try not to be too downtrodden throughout after an abysmal performance for West Virginia on the road. Yet again, the road has not been kind to the Mountaineers yet this season. West Virginia falls to 2-2 on the year, both the wins coming at home, both the losses coming on the road, and unfortunately starts Big 12 playoff on the wrong foot 0-1 as they fall 41-10 to the Kansas Jayhawks back on Saturday. Unfortunately, we got to come here talk about it a little bit. The one thing we said before we started recording was this one might be short, sweet, and to the point because we're ready to put this game behind us and look ahead and move forward and hope for brighter days ahead on the season. But before we do, we got to put a bow on it here, and that's what we're going to do on episode 330. And joining me to help me do that, my great co-host as always, we got Steven. What's going on, man?
What's going on, everybody?
All right, bro. I don't know. I don't know where we want to start with this one. Plenty of different talking points definitely coming out of that game. We'll dive into the stats and stuff before we wrap up with the discussion on the game. But before that, I figured we'd just kind of free flow kind of conversation about it. And I think there's a few places you could start the conversation. And I think they're both on the offensive side. Really the offensive struggles in general is probably where you want to start things. So let's go ahead. Let's go there because I think when you look at the offense, you're looking at the O line continuing to be an issue. And I think as much as you came out of the Pitt game solidified with Nico's the guy, he's got a pretty long leash, that's probably all evaporated at this point, and I think the QB controversy now lives as well after this game. So, with that being said, I'll give my take on either one of those two things momentarily, but let me get yours first here, Stephen. I guess quarterback situation. Where are we standing after this one? I mean, abysmal performance on offense. The offensive line didn't help things, but the spark did come in the second half. The one touchdown drive was led by Jalen Henderson in this one. You get him in the second half. You get Khalil Wilkins in the second half a little bit after Nico, not the greatest day, throws an interception. And I think with the issues, the injuries at running back, and the issues of the offensive line, some people are thinking we might need more of a running quarterback. What's your stance on the quarterback situation, the offensive struggles in this game against Kansas? How are you feeling coming out of this one after just a week removed from feeling like Nico was certainly the guy? Do you still feel that way?
A little bit. So, but I largely feel how I felt coming out of the week 2 weeks ago. Just with the running back situation being what it is, Jaheim goes down, so you lose that running presence. You have a guy in Ty Edwards that steps up, and you're like, okay, we got a guy, and then all of a sudden he goes down, and then all of a sudden in this game out there in Lawrence, what do we lose? Two more running backs, three more running backs, something around that number.
Multiple
I mean, multiple guys. So, I mean,
tie-ins in
an
Cincy.
already absolutely depleted running back room takes another massive few blows. So, as much as I still stand by that Nico is the best quarterback in this room, I think the reason you've seen the drive with Jalen be so successful is that we finally did have a running presence yesterday. When we didn't have one. That's what
Yeah,
made our offense not existent. I mean, to add to the offensive line struggles that we had, and then the one bright spot on the offensive line that you did have, and Landon Livingston, he goes down because his ankle gets rolled up. So then, I mean, again, injuries. You not to make excuses, but I mean, it's just right there in front of you. You already have question marks along, you know, positions that you really couldn't afford those question marks at, and then you've got more injuries now on top of those. So it takes me back to I love Nico and I love his playing style. I do stand by that he's the best quarterback in this room. I think that he can spin it better than anybody that we've seen at WVU in quite some time. And I don't think that that's not been the case when he's had time to throw the football. But with saying what I just said about the offensive line and not having any running backs to fill that void right now, you're going to have something of a running presence. So you're almost forced to have to go with a guy like Jalen Henderson or maybe even Scotty Fox if he can, have some growth throughout the season and have some better decision making, which I think that'll happen in time. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, and it's nothing against Nico. I don't blame Nico in any facet at all with what happened yesterday. I even said during our watch along stream that I felt like that's the first person that fans are going to attack that's the first person that fans are going to come for. It's just natural to do that. I understand that. But I mean, you got to be smarter than that. If you watch the game, you understand what happened, and you've watched this team and understand what's been going on. It's clearly not a Nico situation, a Nico problem.
Yeah.
You have to be situationally based, and I think Rich Rodriguez is that, and he will adjust to what is going to need to happen to win football games. And right now, unfortunately, that might have to be switching to somebody like Jalen that can run a little bit better.
It's a problem that definitely starts up front. It's injury based, as you mentioned there. It adds into it, but definitely the offensive line continues to be an issue, which we saw early in the season, and unfortunately just continues to be the case. So we'll hit on that too momentarily because I think we could maybe see some changes there as well. But as far as quarterback is concerned, before we get there, my opinion is kind of somewhat similar to yours, um, in the fact that I think that Nico is the best passer of the group, and that's why he's probably the one that's getting the nod and is playing that combined with his experience and you know his moxie, his all those things that we saw that helped us lead to that win in the backyard brawl. But with the struggles of this offense that we saw in this game against Kansas and the game against Ohio, because really offensively, they were almost like identical performances, low key.
Yeah,
Uh, I think that without Ty Edwards, now if you have Ty Edwards, maybe it's a little bit different. But without Ty
yeah.
Edwards,
I think it's
you
vastly
know,
different with Ty Edwards.
yeah, you don't you need some type of running threat because as you said, this offense doesn't work if you can't run the football at all, and we weren't run the football at all. I think before that Henderson drive, we had 30 some rushing yards on the game. We ended up getting over 100, but Henderson ends up like the leading rusher of the game, and he was only in for a few drives there at the end. But the reason that I think you can make this switch and probably need to make this switch to whether it's Jalen Henderson, whether it's Khalil Wilkins, one of the quarterbacks that's more mobile. I think there's multiple things you can point to here. If the offensive line is bad and they can get out and make a play. If something's not there, they can scramble out when it breaks down, still make a play, make something happen. I think with the QB run game stuff, the holes weren't any different when Jalen was in there when we were running Q draw and Q counter. He was just getting through them quicker and getting upfield versus
Well,
they
he
would
was getting to
close
the
before
outside
Nico.
quicker too. That's what
Yeah,
I noticed was he was getting to the edge and he could just
get to
beat
the
those
edge,
guys.
a 2 yard run for Nico was a 7-10 yard run for Jalen Henderson because the hole would close on Nico and the defense would close in. Just
Yeah.
complete different. So that's one of the reasons. But the other reason I think is because of our offensive line struggles. Which, if you go with me on this and think of it this way, Nico plays because he's the best passer because he can throw downfield if we need to pass the ball downfield. Nico's the guy that can do it. But with our offensive line struggling the way that it is, we don't have the time to throw downfield anyway. So any of the passing stuff that we're going to do is going to be quick game stuff, slants, screens, hitch routes. That's the stuff we're going to be able to get off. And the other quarterbacks can throw that. They don't have any. I don't think Henderson, Wilkins, none of those guys have any problem with that quick game type stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think you would lose anything too much in the pass game because the only pass game you're able to have is the short stuff because our offensive line's so bad we can't do any longer developing routes. So honestly, it's not. It's like you're not losing much of your pass game because you can't really do a lot of it anyways because your offensive line's struggling. You add the rushing element, so I think it. It's you got it. I think you got to do it. I think you got to pull the trigger, and it sucks because, like you said, Nico is talented. He's shown that when he has the pieces around him, he can really get it done. But right now, just with what we have, he's kind of a square peg in a round hole, unfortunately.
Yeah. He just
And
doesn't
so I,
fit
I
the
think you
style
got
of
to
the
switch it
offense.
up.
I think that people have recognized that from the jump. I've recognized that from the jump, but I think that it's more like Nico. To me, shows more heart and willingness to put it all on the line to win than the other quarterbacks. That's more so what makes him better to me.
Oh yeah, he's got that
And he's
that
just
gritty
always
to him.
done that, and I appreciate that about him. I know he struggles sometimes. Like I said, I'm fully aware of the fact that it's probably needed, that we do need to change right now. But I don't think that all of the slander that he's getting online is warranted. It's not as
No,
deserved.
no, I agree. It's tough to come by because even the plays that were there to be made, he didn't have the chance to make them because there's guys in his face and stuff like that. So although he did his fair share of blame for some of the misses. I mean, he did miss some throws and stuff, and
Yeah,
we've admitted
yeah.
that when he has. But also, I mean, it's hard for anyone to be successful with what's going on up front, which is a great
You're scared
segue.
of getting smacked in the face all day. I mean, it does some stuff to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
promise.
There's a reason why defense coordinators love to keep hitting the quarterback, keep getting after the quarterback because it takes a toll after a while. But speaking of that, taking a toll on us because of our offensive line issues. And listen, man, I don't want to sit here and bash on any young college guys by name, but I think
Oh, no, you can now. They're professionals, right? We're
yeah, I
allowed
mean,
to
they
do
are
that.
getting
They get
paid.
paid.
I do understand that aspect of it, but I think that there's plenty of other shows that have named them by name, and I think that everyone that watches the game can see with their own eyes that the right side of the offensive line is an issue. I mean, it's pretty
I think
obvious.
I think
So,
the guards on each side
well,
are the issue.
that's I think everyone on this offensive line has their fair share of moments where they've missed, but I think particularly when you go back and watch a lot of the plays that got blown up in that game against Kansas, and we even pointed it out, it's the right guard spot more than once, and then the right tackle was having some issues as well there. So I think now you have to wonder, is it time to try something else there as well? Because I think in an ideal world, the best solution would have probably been to bring Carson Lee in and either have him play right guard or slide Livingston over to right guard and have Lee play center. But now that option looks like it's out of the window, at least for the time being, with the injury to Lane and Livingston. Carson Lee now having to play center, which he did a good job coming in and playing there in the second half, and I expected him to. But I think something on that right side of that line may need to adjust. Um, you know, the person we have playing at right guard was someone that had been moved to defensive line in the past, and I think there's maybe a reason for that.
Manioli.
Uh, yeah, and I think that we got some other guys on the roster. I just don't understand like Malik Agbo, he got playing time at Texas last year. We brought him in. I think that you could maybe try him at that right guard spot. I think when he's healthy, Xavier Bosley, you could try at the right tackle spot. So I think there's, 2, 3, 4 guys potentially that maybe we could try and rotate in there. I'm going to be anxious to see if they do that as well. So those are, a couple of the areas that I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I know quarterback will get the headlines, but we know offensive line has struggled as well. And we know kind of the struggle areas, the struggle spots on that offensive line and the ones we'll keep an eye on to see if there's any changes there. But any thoughts there on the offensive line and if you expect any changes or anything like that, Stephen?
No, just echoing the same exact things that you just said. I've been kind of vocal about that in the last couple of weeks. I mean, I was vocal about that during the watch along stream. Like you said, we called it out. I mean,
Hmm.
we were running outside zone or wide zone, depending on what playbook you're looking at or what they want to call it, and going under center and going right off the outside edge of that right tackle, and McConioli blocks him on the inside shoulder for whatever reason, leaving that edge rusher to have a clear lane to the running back. I forget who was running the ball on that one, but didn't. I mean, it was tackled at the line of scrimmage when he could have blocked the outside shoulder. We had at least 5, 6, 7 yard gain there
Yeah.
with the right blocking technique, and I just don't. I don't want to, like you said, don't want to harp on kids too much, you know. But at the same time, we're playing big time pro, big boy football here. Those are simple things that you learn at the middle school and high school level. I thought,
Yeah.
or,
It's
or
just
I learned
missed
it anyway.
assignments and stuff, man. And I know there's something to be said about like, all right, we want to stick with like the same five because we want them to build chemistry and experience together. But the thing is, you're 4 games in now, third of the way through the season. And
The season gets harder, as we keep saying.
yeah, and
So,
even if, you're working on building chemistry and such, offensive line more than any other unit, more than any other position group is dependent on all 5 of those guys
oh yeah,
working together. Because if 4 guys do the right thing and 1 guy does the wrong thing, the whole play's blown up. So if you consistently see 3 or 4 guys doing the right thing and 1 or 2 guys doing the wrong thing, it's like, all right, maybe we got to change those so we can at least maybe try and get 5 guys that'll do the right thing. And then maybe it's just they're not building the chemistry because we don't have the right 5.
I
Switch out one of
I
them, switch
don't
out one or two of them, and then maybe you find, okay, actually these five work better together, and then they build chemistry throughout the rest of the season, and we improve as the season goes along. Because I'm gonna be honest, the offensive line hasn't really improved yet through
but
these four
I
games.
don't think that it's even. Yes, it is that, but I don't think it's entirely that. I think that it's more so what we've said in the past. I think that the offensive line is just more of a position that you need to have recruited, and not it's not something that you can just
That's
go to
true
the
too.
portal and piece together like you can with other things. Like a receiver can learn a route tree in a short amount of time. You know what I mean? He can learn, like, if he doesn't know the playbook, hey yo, what's a fade? It's a 7. All right, run a 7. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
that's simple shit. Like, you ain't got to go through a whole lot to learn that stuff as a receiver. Now, quarterback's different. Yeah, you got to learn the entire playbook. You got to know your stuff. Yeah, but an entire offensive line, that's different than a defensive line. Just rush and go to the quarterback. Different than linebackers. You just got to learn. You know what I mean? Like, what plays man coverage, what plays zone coverage, where do I need to be in drop zone? Like, more or less simple thing. Like, there's complicated stuff to learning defenses. I'm not saying that there isn't, but as as a cohesive unit and learning those things and working together and the chemistry that it involves, the hardest one is the offensive line, in my opinion. And it's
Yeah.
just not something that you can piece together five guys in an off season and have it together just like that. I don't care if you've got 5 All-Americans. It's going to be extremely hard. That's why you have the success that you have at these big blue bloods, because they recruit. Obviously, they recruit well. They have 4 and 5 star guys all on their offensive fronts, and those guys stay together for 4 and 5 years now, um, playing together, and they're stout, and that's the common consensus that I've seen across the successful football teams over my lifetime. Good offensive lines,
Yeah.
great offensive lines.
Well,
Even
and
the ones at
that's
WVU, you can think about Dan Moses, for Zach Frazier, the ones Zach Frazier was on the team in the Neil Brown era, one of the only successful teams that we had in the Neil Brown era.
and
Um,
that's even more of a reason to more of an argument to go ahead and make that switch. Because if you think about it on our O line, Nick Cray and Landon Livingston were the only two that weren't seniors that would potential to come back that we could build on for the future.
right,
Well, if you go there at right guard and right tackle and make a change, and let's say we go Malik Agbo and let's Xavier Bosley if he's healthy, or if we even went Josh Isosa and Malik Agbo.
yeah,
Either way that you go there, those are guys that have multiple years left for the future, and so that would give you three at least three offensive linemen that could be together not only this year but for the future. If Livingston comes back, that's four out of your five, and the only one you would have to, fill moving forward would be with Young Bear, and you could maybe fill him with someone in the program. So, I think that there's multiple plus sides, multiple positives, multiple pros to being able to make a change on the offensive line here moving forward. But that's just my opinion, just
Listen, man,
from the
the more
outside
the
looking
game
in.
changes, the more the game stays the same. This shit reminds me so much of 2001. It's unreal.
It's
We are going.
crazy.
I mean, it's unreal. We took a super bad loss to Temple, which is way worse than that Ohio loss. I don't care what anybody says. That year, we we had some pretty. I think we beat Pitt that year. If I'm, I might be wrong about that. I need to go back and check.
We beat we put 80 points on Temple when we beat. It was like 80-9 or whatever. Because we had like three wins that year, and one of them we put up 80 points. Forgot about that.
But anyway, yeah, we went 3-8 that year, and you know what I'm saying. To your point, I think that that's probably the best case scenario. And I think, like I said, Rich Rodriguez has been through this shit before. He knows what the
Oh
deal
yeah.
is. So I think he recognizes that, and if that's what the season becomes, not to say that we're going to scrap the season, but you got to make the most out of what you got. And if you can see that we're not making a run at the Big 12 championship, then you know we got to do our best to put our guys in position to be able to make that run soon as possible. So
Yeah.
hopefully these guys can gain some chemistry throughout this season and throughout the off season going into the next.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt in my
Assuming there's a lot
mind
of
that it's not
success.
just a matter of time with Rich Rod for sure, 100%.
Oh
I
yeah,
think the only reason that it's like hurtful right now and why we're I guess, or at least I should probably speak for myself. I don't speak for everyone else, but I think in my case, it's probably because I thought, well, the first year this time it's not going to be as bad as 2001 because
because the game's
2001
different.
he had a bunch of round peg, square hole type deals. This time he was able to get more of his pieces and stuff. And I think that is the case. But I also think that they had to do it in a hurry. So sometimes they, maybe you got some guys that they missed on and misevaluated on. And then also I think that the fact that he's having to do it not only in such a short time frame, but also it's not like he's got guys that have been in his system consistently. Like if he was able to bring a slew of guys from Jack State with, I mean, he brought a few, but if he was able to bring a bunch, like with what Signetti did at Indiana, bringing the guys from James Madison that knew the system, that's why that transition was able to go so smooth. And so I thought, maybe this time being in the portal era, we'd be able to have more success in year one. But I think I just overestimated that a little bit. And we still could. We still could have more than wins that he had the first year of his first stint here. We could do that here in 2.0 era. But I think we're looking at, like you said, something that's more akin to 2001 than I expected it would be.
Yeah.
But also, you look on the other side of that coin, and it was 2-3 years later we were competing for Big 12 championships. We went from 3-9 to 9-4 the next season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So, I think it'll be a quick turnaround yet again. Just got to give it time. This year might not be the best. I mean, I think we see that now because 4 games in, we got a pretty good sample size. And I think one thing we can see is the injuries piling up is definitely hurting, but also we really just don't have the guys in some spots from what we can tell. And so grin and bear it at this point. Moving forward, learn to enjoy the moments, the highlight moments in each game, have some fun watching them, and just enjoy that you get the chance to watch the Mountaineers because it's going to get a lot better after this season. But this year we're just going to make it through and we're going to find the moments to enjoy.
Well, I think that you had a good point there of to why it was valid to believe what you believed. I mean, at the beginning of the season, you still had Jaheim, you still had some pieces there that made you believe that we could be successful on both sides of the football. And I mean, I think for a large majority, we were when we had all pieces involved. I mean, we didn't really see a large sample size from the offensive line yet, but I think it would be less obvious how bad they were if you had Jaheim White back there right now.
Mm,
Um,
true.
so I mean, things happen throughout the season that you can't control, and that's the beautiful and the ugly thing about college sports and sports in general. You know what I mean? Like you just never know what's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
but you make the best of what you got, and like you said, I think West Virginia's still going to have some success this year. I don't think that. I mean, like I said the other day, every time you win, you think you're going to win every game for the rest of the season, and every time you lose, you feel like you're going to lose the rest of the games for the rest of the season.
That's the way it goes.
I still think that there's some success left in West Virginia. I think that they're definitely the type of team that's not going to give up, but there is some similarities though. And to confirm what you said, they went 3-8 the 2001 season, and then came out the next year, started off 0-3, and then went on an 8 win streak and went 8-3.
That's what I thought.
Never looked
It's
back.
completely flip the record completely. So brighter days are ahead. That's 100% for sure. So we definitely, had to spend some time there on the offense. I think that's kind of the elephant in the room right now with the struggles yet again at Kansas, similar to how they were at Ohio. So we'll see what happens, what changes are made moving forward, because certainly there will be some changes made there on offense, and we'll, maybe touch on a few more things there when we run down the stats here momentarily. But before we do, let's talk defense real quick, Steven, because I think, it looks bad when you look at it on the scoreboard, 41-10. Oh man, we give up 41 points, but give up a kick return touchdown. The offense put them in a bad position one time. So, you can take 14 off of that at least. So that's going to put you down 27. And that's, if you can't hold, an offense like Kansas under 30, should give yourself a chance if you're holding them, somewhere in the 20s, I think, most of the time. And let's not forget they were gassed and by the time the second half rolled around. It was six straight 3-and-outs by our offense at one point. So yeah, maybe on paper, statistically, one of the worst performances of the season for our defense. But when you watch the game unfold, yet again, they did what they've done a lot this year, and I think what they're going to have to do and continue to do moving forward, and that's keep us in ball games. I think
Yep.
losing Fred Perry with that targeting call was a big loss. He's definitely the leader of that defense, flies around a lot. But they got hit with some of those trick plays, some of those motions and stuff that Kansas uses, caught us a couple times. We did have a couple coverage breakdowns, which is more than we had in the past. And I think we need to get back to some better tackling. Tackling was an issue, but overall, I'm still impressed with what Zach Alley's doing with that defense. I think that they're going to keep us in games, and we just have to have an offense that'll be able to sustain some drives so that they can get some breathers out there, and they'll be able to hold teams to lesser of a scoring total than what we gave up here against Kansas. But that's just my opinion. What about you, Steven? How you feeling about what the defense did against Kansas? Do you think it's as bad as it looked on the scoreboard? And do you think that they'll still be able to keep us in games moving forward?
Yeah, I think you said it. I think the they just needed a breather. I think that was the issue later in the game. I think early in the game they had good tackling technique. They were wrapping up. I think in the latter part of the game they were just gassed. So they would have more guys reaching out, going for arm tackles. That's why you've seen a lot more broken tackles and stuff. Uh, to the Fred Perry point, much as I hate it, that was deserved. That was you got to be smarter than that,
Yeah.
Fred Perry. But on the opposite end of that, I really want an explanation as to why that guy for Kansas was he ejected. He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, they ended up reviewing it, but they didn't
Okay,
throw a flag at first. Didn't think they were going to, but yeah, they ended up reviewing it and ejected
that
him for
was
that hit on
absolutely
Bowers. Yeah,
dude needs to be. They need to investigate that and suspend dude for a couple of games. That
yeah,
was
that was bad.
ridiculous.
That's pretty
But anyway,
pretty egregious too.
to the point of the defense, I think that that the offense exactly what you said. The offense needs to give them more time to recoup on the sidelines. A lot of times, I think if you do that, the defense is going to put you in positions to win football games. But yesterday, I mean, Kansas was very smart in their offensive scheme. They would run, they run it all the way to the edge on one sideline. They run it all the way back on the edge on the other sideline. They just do that back and forth all day, and have to have guys running back and forth. And that's 50 yards back and forth. I don't know if you know that, but the width of a football field is 50 yards. Uh, so you do, I promise you do that enough times. I don't care how in shape you are, you're going to be gassed. Um, so doing that for an entire half and then coming out in the second half, I think that's why you've seen what you've seen. Um, but again, I don't think that the score was indicative of the way that the defense for West Virginia played yesterday. I thought, especially whenever Jamori Robinson was added into the mix, and you got him and Eddie
Yeah,
Kelly coming off of each side, I thought that they had great pressure. I thought they got to Jalen Daniels really quick. They really put him to where he looked like he was rattled a few times for the first time in the football game. So I think moving forward, that's going to be very positive for our defense. But again, I think that we've just it all comes back on that offensive side of the football, and especially the offensive line. I think that's just the biggest glaring issue. I hate to harp on them, but um, it folds back into it because you have to give the defensive guys time to rest on the sidelines if you're going to have success. Because I think we have good numbers and depth on the defense. Um, I mean, but how much can you take if you keep taking these injuries and you got guys going out with targeting calls each week? You had Ashton Woods go out early last week. Had Fred Perry go out on a silly one this week. I love the aggressiveness. I do. I will say that I absolutely love that they're going and attacking the way that they are because that's something you haven't seen in quite some time. But you gotta have higher IQ about things.
yeah. There's not too many things to harp or complain on about the defense, like you said there. For the most top part, they've been doing their job. A couple coverage busts in this game, unfortunately, but those are going to happen occasionally. Just don't let them continue to happen. I think some of that was miscommunication with, like you said, some of the mixture of the injuries and the targeting, losing Fred Perry. All of that probably led to a couple of those, plus the way Kansas schemed things up. But the only thing that I would probably say is the only negative I have coming out of this game that I hope gets fixed moving forward, because I was surprised that it happened again after it happened against Ohio. And that's just, we were doing a great job, with how we schemed it up, with how Zach Alley schemed it up, as he is one to do, with our pressures and getting, guys free, essentially free runs at the quarterback. But yet again, for the same time, same thing happened when we played Parker Navarro. They would just come in, screaming downfield, and
Get blown past
all
their
the
stop.
quarterback would do is just let them come, they're coming fast, just quick little sidestep. They run right by him, and then nobody's there, and he takes off, into the open field after that. And so I would hope that now that we've got it on tape from two different games, that when we get those pressures in there, we come in a little bit more under control, break down ready, and don't let them just sidestep us. And, get when we get in there, let's get some sacks, man. Let's get some
Well,
sacks, because
I
I feel like that's the bad luck we've had is yeah, we've had a ton of sacks, but we could have had a lot more. And yeah, we forced some turnovers, but we could have had a lot more. That's my
Right.
main complaints there,
And I
probably.
know the play you're talking about. I was even envisioning that one in my mind a few minutes ago before we even started talking about it. But that I hopefully can be a positive with how smart Zach Alley is, and hopefully they'll show. Because I mean, what teams do on tape is they look for what sets that you're in, and
Mhm.
then they whenever you get into a set, they're like, okay, we'll call this. That's exactly what Kansas did. They noticed that whenever we run that set, I'm sure that they watched the tape on Ohio, noticed that they had success whenever West Virginia would come and put pressure on them like that. Just float it over top, and you got it all day. Hopefully, West Virginia comes out in that pressure next week and has a guy fall back.
Yeah, with an
And
answer
is
for that.
smart with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're smart with what they do, but you're right. I don't know how they didn't learn that lesson from 2 weeks prior. But,
Yeah, that's one of the only bad things I had to say coming out of that one on the defense. Because other than that, they've been holding their own. They're the ones that's been keeping us in, a lot of these games for the periods that we've been in them. Ohio, they kept us in it the whole thing. This time, they kept us in it as long as they could. Offense didn't hold up their end of the bargain. I think if the offense gets one touchdown in the first half, this might be a different football game. But it didn't happen, and it went the way that it went. Ended up in a 41-10 Kansas victory. Some thoughts from us overall, their offense, defense, and I will throw in special teams. Bad day. Bad day for the Mountaineers. Give up a long kick return that nearly went to the house, and then start the second half by giving up one that does go to the house, and then that was kind of demoralizing and was no turning back at that point. But with that being said, Stephen, let's get ready to wrap up talking about this damn game by taking a look at the stats really quickly, and then we'll wrap up episode 230 of the show here by taking a look around the Big 12 here for our Kansas review and reaction. But appreciate you guys that are tuning in here, whether you're watching the video version here on YouTube or listening to the audio on any podcast platform. If you're there on the audio side, leave us a rating. That helps us out. Those of you that watch on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button. Giving us that little thumbs up helps out a ton with that YouTube algorithm. Help us find more Mountaineer fans like yourself, and be sure you're subscribed to the channel so you get these videos directly into your feed. And shout out to our friends over at WVSportsNow.com for hosting our episodes on their website as well. So with that being said, let's take a look at the stats, which aren't as egregious as you would think they would be with a 31-point loss. But first downs, we got 18 for West Virginia, 19 for Kansas. Third downs, both teams really struggled. 3 of 15 for West Virginia. Kansas 5 of 14. But Kansas did convert one of their fourth down attempts. They went for it twice there. West Virginia 0 of 2 on their two attempts. Total yards, 324 for West Virginia, 405 for Kansas. Passing, 146 for Kansas, 142 for the Mountaineers. Rushing, West Virginia ends up with 182. But this is where I was talking about where Henderson made a difference, because I think before he came in, they were still sitting at 30-some yards rushing there moving into the fourth quarter. So definitely him and Wilkins both made a difference in the rushing totals at the end of that game. But West Virginia ends up giving up 259 yards rushing in the game. Way too much. I think a lot of that, as Steven talked about, was late in the game when you were gassed and you kind of weren't having form tackling then, and guys were running through arm tackles. Had a big run break for the Kansas running back. And then, of course, Jalen Daniels hurt you some as well. Penalties, 5 for the Mountaineers, 4 on the Jayhawks. West Virginia turns the ball over twice. Kansas doesn't turn it over any. That was a difference as well. So there's the team stats. Anything stand out there you want to hit on, Steven, before we talk individual numbers?
I know that the third down efficiency is kind of reflecting on both teams. They had 5, we had 3. I noticed that one during the game.
Yeah,
You have to be better on third down if you're going to expect to win football games and have success. So that's the biggest one that jumps off there to me.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Let's go here individual stats then for the Mountaineers in this one. We'll go here, take a look at the quarterbacks. Throwing wise, Nico, 15 of 27, 126, no touchdowns, one interception. Henderson did throw 4 passes, completed 2 of those, 16 yards for him. And then here was where we get to the rushing totals. Henderson, 7 carries, 79 yards, and a touchdown. And I think, I want to say it was 3 guys I heard say it, or it might have been the Ear Sports Show, one of the two. I can't remember though, but they said that, with that game from Henderson, just to kind of drive home West Virginia's rushing struggles, he's now the third leading rusher for West Virginia on the season, and he's only carried the ball like 14 times. So couple things, it shows you how, the run game struggle, but also shows you how Henderson can really help you in that aspect, I think, too. He's the game's leading rusher,
Yeah.
7 carries, 79 yards and a touchdown. 32-yarder was his long one. Khalil Wilkins came in later in the game even, 5 carries, 36 yards. So your two leading rushers, both the quarterbacks there. Your leading rusher from the running back spot was actually Tyler Jackledge, 6 carries, 27 yards. 3 carries for Dewar Hubbard, 16 yards. Clay Ash, 12 yards on his 7 carries. Man Singleton, couple jet sweeps, got 10 yards on him, and 6 carries for Bowers, or 6 yards for Bowers on 5 carries, excuse me. So looking at the rushing numbers, Stephen, I mean, running back position is one thing we didn't talk about. So, before we wrap up discussing about this game, what did you think from the running backs that we saw? Because we did see, Clay Ash. We saw Tyler Jackledge a decent bit. We saw Dewar Hubbard. We saw Sincere Bowers. Sincere Bowers did have a big play in the passing game. But honestly, from the running backs that we saw, I wouldn't mind seeing more Tyler Jackledge. I don't know about you. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind to see that. I mean, I think from this point forward, you kinda have to see a little bit of everybody. I don't know if any guy did
We
solidify
need to get
themselves.
Cannon Katzer healthy too.
Need to get Ken Cats are healthy, yeah, that would help. I just think that I mean, yesterday, nobody really impressed at all. I mean, everybody
No.
for the most part got stuffed at the line of scrimmage or worse. Um, so I really don't know. I mean, maybe it's Tyler Jackledge. I just don't have a large enough sample size. I hate basing an entire judgment on a guy based on just a couple of plays,
Yeah. And
especially in the
Jackledge did
performance
have the
the way
one
that they had
fumble. We
yesterday.
should add, on the more negative side, unfortunately, did have the one fumble, which hurt. That was our other turnover in addition to the Nico interception. But in a perfect world, Ty Edwards is good to go on Saturday, and he rolls out there running back one, and then a couple of these other guys you mix in as complementary pieces. That'd be a ideal situation, of course.
I think if you can't have success, then maybe we got a lot of guys in the tight end room again. A lot of guys that are itching for playing time and seem to have some athletic ability. Maybe pull a CJ Donaldson and switch one of those guys back there and have a big body at
something,
least so they can bulldoze over people. If we're not going to have an
something at this
offensive line
point.
presence, because you got to have somebody that's going to be able to power through. If that's not the case,
Yeah,
then that
I
might
agree.
I
I
might be
definitely think
jinxed.
that's why Jackledge had a little bit of success yesterday, and that's why Ty Edwards was the one that looked really good in the brawl because they're the two backs that are the bigger bodies, the 220 plus pounders, and they can break some of those tackles at the point of contact there because they have to because. Like we talked about, the offensive line struggles there. So, did want to hit running back there when he was going through the rushing stats really quickly because I think that's something else that we'll keep an eye on.
A
If Ty
negative
Edwards
four
is
for
healthy,
Nico because of the
yeah.
sack.
Yeah, negative 4 yards for Nico as well, there at the bottom, but, definitely, if Ty Edwards is healthy, that'll be a big boost. Let's hope that he is after taking this week off. We'll see what happens there, and we'll keep an eye on the running back position as well. Receivers for the Mountaineers, not a lot going here, like we talked about, not really able to throw the ball downfield, so really eliminates a lot, and you hate it for Cam Vaughn because he's such a weapon, but, with the offensive line struggles and the quarterback struggles, it's hard to get him the ball, so your leading receiver actually is Sincere Bowers with that 23-yard reception. He ends up 2 receptions, 26 yards. Jeff Weimer, 2 catches, 23 yards. Gallagher, 2 catches, 21. Barnes leads in receptions as he had three for 20. And then you had a reception for Ryan Ward, who played at tight end there with Jacob Barrick out, 13-yard reception. 2 catches for Cam Vaughn, 11 yards. Two for Man for 6. And one for Clay Ash for 3 yards. Defensively, not a ton of standout stuff here. I mean, we got 4 tackles apiece for Reed Carrico, Fred Perry, Nick Taylor, and Michael Coates. The fact that Fred Perry's still tied for your lead in tackle shows you how much he's all over the field. He didn't play after the second quarter. So he's a guy that we need out there on defense. I don't know. Do we have any sacks at all? No sacks on the day, man.
Was it
Only
none?
one TFL. That right there is
That's
another reason.
crazy.
No one TFL from Marshawn Oxley. No sacks. I mean, that's complete opposite of what our defense has been doing. So I guess that is the negative point coming out of this game that I didn't realize.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. I mean, it makes sense because it seemed like Jalen Daniels had all the time in the world at times
Yeah.
earlier in the game.
And that's like we talked about there. Even when we did get the pass rush in there, he would sidestep it, would come in out of control. He'd sidestep it and get away. So no sacks. That's hopefully the only game that we see that this year that West Virginia has a 0 in the sack column because we're going to need that pass rush. We're going to need to force some turnovers. But there's a look at the numbers, albeit from an ugly loss. West Virginia drops a 2-2, 41-10 loss to Kansas there in that game. And we now look ahead. Of course, Utah coming up on the schedule. We'll have our Utah preview and predictions out later this week. But before we wrap up this episode, we're going to take a look around the Big 12, talk about the scores from the week. But before we do that, Stephen, any final thoughts on Kansas before we put that one behind us?
Glad it's over.
Glad it's over as well.
I wish
Well
they'd
said.
go back to sucking at some point.
I know. I miss the days when that was an easy win. I miss the
Yep.
days when that was an easy win for sure.
Yep. Same.
All right. Week
Same
four
in Iowa State.
scores from around the Big 12 here. Take a look around the Big 12, and then we'll wrap up episode 230 here of the CRW podcast. So Friday night, unfortunately, Tulsa takes down Oklahoma State 19-12. I think Gundy's as good as gone, man. That's my thought coming away from this one. I'd be surprised if he makes it from the season through the season, to be honest.
Yeah, him along with a couple other legends throughout college football this year are underperforming and probably on their way out the door.
Yeah, very well could be the case. So Friday night, that's unfortunately what happened there at Oklahoma State. Saturday, nice little slate here. Several games that we talked about. SMU and TCU being one. The rivalry there. TCU gets it done. Looking like a contender very much so. 35-24 over SMU. The Horned Frogs get the win there. 34-10. How about that? Texas Tech over Utah at Utah on the road there. The money has been well spent for the Red Raiders. They look legit, man. They look
They do.
legit. That was, their first real test, and it looked, like they're a real contender this year, not only to be in the Big 12, but a playoff contender for sure, I think as well, maybe because they've added a defense. That was always the issue at Texas Tech, right? Where they had offense, no defense. Now it's a little bit of a culture change. They got defense there now, so we'll see what happens. But West Virginia's opponent next week, Utah, only puts up 10 points. Of course, some of that's credit to Texas Tech, but I think that also shows that this game with Utah this upcoming week is probably going to be a rock fight, one of those knockdown, drag out, low scoring affairs. If West Virginia is able to keep it close, that's the type of game it's going to be. But any thoughts there on what was our game of the week in the preview episode there, Texas Tech and Utah, as Texas Tech wins that thing handily?
Yeah, man. Texas Tech, another game where the score really isn't indicative of the game itself. I watched that game, and Utah really did give them a run for their money, and it was
Yeah.
close for a while. Texas Tech didn't pull away from that one until late. But you're right, man. That defense looks really stout. They do. They definitely look like they are for
Well, and their
real.
backup, they did it with their backup quarterback too.
Right, but yeah, and Baron Morton goes down with that big hit. You're right. I forgot about that. So
I
yeah,
did
they
too.
they come in with their backup quarterback and they're able to handle business the way that they do, especially on the road in a raucous environment out there in Utah. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely going to be scary playing them. But also TCU looks really good in theirs against
I
a good
agree.
SMU team. So
Yeah, I like TCU a lot this season. I think they're really good. They're a team that's not being talked about a ton, but they should be, man. I got them right up there with Texas Tech, Iowa State. Some of them teams that look like top of the conference this year. Uh, then we got UCF, man. I thought they'd win this game, but I did not think they'd win it this way. 34-9 over UNC. Chapel Bill and company there struggling a little bit. Big win for UCF, getting a win over another Power 5 team there, at going over the dub over the Tar Heels. Any thoughts on that one, Steve?
it's surprising that Bill Belichick is struggling the way that he is. I knew that it wouldn't be successful as everybody was putting it out there to be. Um, but yeah, didn't think it would struggle like that. But UCF might be. It's either UNC's that bad or UCF is better than what people are thinking they are.
Yeah.
Cross my
I
hat.
think a little both, maybe. A little
Yep.
both, maybe. Then we Arizona State and Baylor. Maybe the best game of the week this week was the Arizona State and Baylor contest down to the wire there in Waco. I thought this one could have went either way. I do got to, credit Baylor's defense for coming out and playing better than I expected because I thought Arizona State might win this thing by 7 to 14 points because I didn't trust the Baylor defense. But this was a better performance than what they put on throughout most of the year. However, Arizona State does just enough to edge them out there at the end, 27-24. Big win there for the Sun Devils as they're looking to try and compete for the conference title as they got it done last year. Some changes on their offense this year with the loss of Scatterbo, but Malik Brown's running well. Udo's running well. Levitt's great. Tyson's one of the best receivers in the nation, and they got a big win over a really tough team in Baylor there in Waco, Stephen.
Yeah, didn't they won that on a walk-off field goal, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe it was a walk-off. Yep.
Yeah, I think that was the one where, was it Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt? Joel Klatt,
I
he's like,
think,
"He's not
yeah.
gonna be able to hit it from the," he's like, "They need to put a guy back." And, he hits the field goal. Gus Johnson's like, "Take that, Joel Klatt."
Super long
That
one,
was
yeah.
funny. But,
Arizona
yeah, man,
State, man. Yeah, that was a
impressive
good
stuff.
game.
Arizona State might still be for real. I think Baylor's still obviously a good football team, um, better than what I was thinking they were gonna be, so
Yeah,
just
Baylor's good.
a lot of good teams in this conference this year, man. That's what's scary.
It's wide open yet again. It's wide open for sure. And one team that's looking to be in that race yet again, Stephen, a team that we always say pro BYU podcast, right?
I don't know why you ever
And
doubt them.
yeah, can't doubt them. Cougars get it done on the road. And it's funny, we weren't the only team that had to go play a group of 5, group of 6, whatever the hell it is anymore, team on the road. BYU had to as well. And they went to East Carolina, handled business 34-13. Cougars get it done. Stephen, are you surprised?
Never surprised. Go Cougs, or what do they say? I don't want to say go Cougs. It sounds like Houston.
That sounds too much Houston. That's just
Uh,
go Cougars.
go
I don't know.
BYU Cougars. Yeah, go Mormons.
BYU, we're the
Yeah,
Cougars, yeah.
yeah. Woohoo!
BYU, woohoo.
It's
Yeah,
why.
BYU,
Here's a why.
woohoo. There you
Why?
go. Lastly, Colorado handles Wyoming 37-20. I think they went back to Caden Salter at quarterback. I think I saw that as well. So a
Yep.
little bit of a carousel there, but Wyoming, not a terrible team. So that's a good win. That's a solid win. Game they needed to win. They got it done. Uh, Coach Prime gets a win. I don't know what
They
else
did.
to say.
They look good. Again, disappointed in these the Wyoming Cowboys. Man, they have not been coming to play any of these weeks. I'll tell you
Nope.
that much.
Nah, they can't get any wins here in the Big 12, but a lot of the Big 12 teams did here. A lot of the Big 12 teams, especially in the out of conference play, playing final non-con games, looked really good for BYU, Colorado, UCF, TCU, and then of course we're into conference play this upcoming week. Of course, had a couple this week now. We'll really be in the thick of it moving forward. So around the Big 12 segments, we'll get pretty fun. And then, of course, after this next week, or maybe one more week after that, we'll start updating the Big 12 standings in our review shows as well. Now that we'll get a sample size on that moving forward. So we'll do that also. But that's pretty much what we do here on these review shows. And that's pretty much what we have here for this one, as always is the case. Just chat a little bit about the game, hit the stats, hit the round the Big 12. So to wrap up, though, as is always the case, do want to hit on a couple comments from our channel members. Which shout out to our channel members. We always appreciate those guys helping keep this mic recording and that camera rolling. If you're someone that can't get enough WVU football content and you want to help support us, you can hit the join button down in the video description on our YouTube page or over on the channel homepage. You can hit it as well. Ton of bonus content, pretty much something throughout every week. And on the review podcast, they get a chance to join us as we record. They sit here and watch from behind the scenes. They get early access to the episode and get a chance to share some thoughts as well. So we got a couple of comments here, both relating to the quarterback situation. Actually, we got Trey Edwards chiming in. He says his opinion on Nico is he put on too much weight in the offseason, not quick enough to get out of the pocket and create time for himself. Someone like Khalil or Jalen is the best option because of that. Yeah, kind of similar to what we said there, I think, Steven.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And you really can't tell with the little flak jacket or whatever it is, the rib cage protector that he wears, whether it's I don't know if it's unhealthy weight or if he actually tried to bulk up muscular wise to be able to get ready for the season. But I agree with your opinion. I think it's too much either way.
Yeah,
And it needs to drop some weight if he's going to be
yeah,
able
lost a
to
bit
run
of a
the ball.
step, unfortunately. And then we got our guy Native Dragon as well. Appreciate you too, man. Says he agrees because the threat of the run opens everything up. Even though the other quarterbacks aren't the best passers, they create a threat that will draw the defense's attention. Which, yeah, it helps not only like we talked about being able to scramble out if something breaks down with the offensive line, but also helps with the read option game because teams are going to start to realize, hey,
Yeah,
Mark Yell's probably not going to pull. We can crash in on the running back and just attack that. You eliminate that if you have, one of the other quarterbacks too. It's a great point as well, Native.
yeah, and especially whenever you're running zone read 5 and 4, 4 and 5 times in a row with with Nico back there. I mean, eventually they're going to key on that. I get that that's your whole style of offense, but I mean, again, if 5 times out of 6, you're not if you're not pulling, they're gonna key on that. Go for it.
Yep. For sure. For sure. Well said.
You gotta have
Smart
faith.
comments from our channel members as always. And we'll see what happens though. We'll see what changes are made. Personally, I'd be surprised if we don't start one of the more dual threat quarterbacks in this upcoming game, or at least if they don't play a lot more. But we'll see what changes are made there, what changes are made in the offensive line. It'll be fun to track it throughout the week. We'll talk more about it on the Utah preview and predictions episode coming out later this week as well. We'll try and get
I
that
did
out to you
wanna
guys by Wednesday.
I did wanna mention one thing before we close this one up because I just thought it was hilarious. So during the game, I know you remember it. So Rich Rod goes over. It's Pat. He's standing there with
Oh,
the little pad, and you got Nico standing there looking to see what they see or whatever, and they're talking about it. And Rich Rod's going over there, and he is lighting them up. He's like, just digging into them. And Pat just looks at him. He's like, "Yes, coach." And then Rich Rod just doesn't. He don't even say nothing else. He just goes over. He's like, "All right, what do you see?" I thought that shit was the
this is
funniest. Like,
it's like that's Rich Rod in a nutshell, like super pissed, but then
but it also
okay,
shows you.
what
It
are we doing?
also shows you a lot of why Pat had success in that offense because he takes coachability. He's like,
Yeah,
he's not going to stand there and get in his feelings and take it and be sensitive when he's like, yeah, we're getting our ass whooped. I understand why he's yelling at me. Yes,
yeah.
coach.
Like, it's probably warranted right now. I get it. But
It's
yeah, that was
funny.
that was a great moment. And then also I remember it was just like because they kinda lingered on that for, I don't know, a good 60 seconds or so. And so you're just seeing Rich Rod standing there and you're seeing Pat White, like you said, with the tablet and the quarterbacks around him. And I'm like, I remember just saying, dude, this is so surreal right now, just watching Pat
Yeah,
White
I
coach our
agree too.
quarterbacks on the sideline.
Yeah,
Like, it's so crazy, man. Like,
and it's a
oh man.
really cool
Makes me feel
moment.
old for one, but other than that, it's just so surreal to have him back there.
Yeah, a lot of people are not going to recognize that, especially the younger people that really didn't see that happen and weren't a part of that back in the day. But in time, you'll see. It'll it'll all be obvious in time.
Yeah.
But I was with you. I thought that was really cool, and
It's a cool moment.
I mean, like as bad as it was in the moment, I appreciated I appreciated it for what it was. Like I said, I mean, like not a lot of people understand what it means. If you haven't played football, which I mean, I get a lot of people that watch and follow our show have, but if you haven't played football, like you don't understand what it's like to get screamed at at the top of their lungs by a football coach, and know it's coming from a place of love and not a place of something else. And
True.
you could see the relationship dynamic between them in that yesterday. Not to not to say that it's okay to scream at other people, but it's just
Hey, it's football, baby.
yeah, it's football.
Well, and like I said, it was a cool moment, and that's what we're gonna have to enjoy throughout the season. Find those cool moments to enjoy, whether it's something like that, whether it's the nice runs by Henderson late in the game. Because I know that on the stream, that's what we were waiting for. It was like we want to see at least one touchdown, and then finally got that nice drive from Henderson, and he runs it into the end zone, and we got that nice moment to celebrate. So
Yep.
we're gonna enjoy those moments throughout the year when we can, and hopefully there's plenty more of them moving forward. I definitely think there's definitely brighter days on the horizon. Certainly coming up this week. The only way to go is up from here after that type performance that we're coming off of. And unfortunately, we had to come back here and recap it, but I think it's good. I think it's therapeutic as time. Get to get some feelings off our chests. You guys do as well. Channel members in here with us as we record, and then you guys watching after the fact as well. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Throw them in the comment section. We appreciate those interactions. Those help us grow the CRW community here on YouTube as well. But that'll pretty much do it here for our Kansas review and reaction. Be back to chat about Utah later this week as West Virginia looks to break out the throwbacks, the 1965 throwbacks this weekend, and welcome Utah into Morgantown as Big 12 conference play continues, and hopefully more positive results moving forward in the future conference games for West Virginia. But that's it for episode 230 for my great co-host Steven. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.
Really wanna know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those